Thank you so much. I know it looks like a lot of friends here I've seen in the past, some people I haven't seen before. I'm humbled to be here. Okay, that was a wonderful bio on me. However, I'll give you my real bio. My real bio. I'll try and keep it brief. When I came back from overseas, Vietnam, 1968, 1969, my world had been turned upside down. Strange country I came back to, everything was upside down. I worked construction for a while, finally got a real job. I was to be an expediter in an industrial supply house, pipes, valves, fittings, nuts and bolts. But the fellow I worked for was an old school Italian. Now he had no problem calling you a idiot in a room of 40 or 50 people. Now I had a bad attitude, I'll give you that. But he had no stripes. He had no brass on his collar, so I'd yell back. This man fired me 3 times in 9 months. God's honest truth, real story. The vice president would hire me back, and Vince would fire me again, and after 9 months I realized I didn't belong in the corporate world. My formal education, University of South Vietnam, School of Infantry, and I majored in panic and chaos. And I only attended 1 year. So, folks, that's my background. I don't know what you know. What I do know is how to help you find a position you want, or on the flip side, as a hiring manager, as a hiring authority, give you some other ideas on how you can interview. This is not a commercial. I broke my rule twice tonight by giving out a business card. Usually I will not give out a business card, but there was definite reasons. The last thing you want to see as a manager of your department or within your company, having a recruiter giving out his business card to your employees. I do not do that. Okay, I gave it out for other reasons, one about conference and something else. But I do not give out business cards. This is not a marketing event for me. For those who are not on the market right now, I suggest you take the same concepts, use them for internal interviews, you can use them for performance reviews. There's a lot of different places. I speak placement east. That's what I've learned in all these years. So I don't necessarily speak all of your different dialects. So what I'm going to suggest is you take what I share and just convert it into your own style, into your own environment. One change may not make a major difference, but my goal here is to get you to think. If I could shake you just a little bit, get you to step back a little bit and see a larger picture, I've done my job. That's all I want to accomplish tonight. If not for you, feel free to share it. Oh, you passed it out? Beautiful, okay. Share it with anybody you want. Nothing that I do is copyrighted. I will not copyright anything, because all I did was borrow it, steal it, learn it from somebody else. So this is not my stuff. However, if you do share any of this, and it'll be taped, okay, and it'll be up on the webpage, share it. But be sure you share the perspective, the context of how I share it. Otherwise, it'll make no sense to them. Last thing is, I teach fishing. If you were to go fishing, what is your objective? Anybody?
Catch fish.
Catch fish. Good, Charlie. Not eat fish. Okay. Just because you catch a fish in the interviewing process does not mean you should take the job, you should eat the fish. But I suggest you go out and fish and keep catching fish. You'll find something you want and you'll perfect the art of fishing in the process. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I love this one. I have no idea who did the presentation. Has to be close to 35 years ago. But that's one of the points he put out. Nothing fails 100% of the time. So I'm going to share some thoughts with you. These are based on my personality, my presentation. But whatever you do, if you do it long enough, if you create a resume on toilet paper and send out the whole roll, enough times you're going to find work. So there's nothing here that you must do. It's the only way to do it. I don't believe in that. I'll share my concepts, see if they work for you. If you're comfortable, run with them. Explore them, develop them even further. Okay? But there's not one way to do it. And we'll talk about some of the other approaches to the process. I love questions. If you have any questions, raise your hand, we'll stop, we'll cover it. There's nothing I want to put on a slide here that's going to be more important than your question. However, questions begin with how, why, where, when, and who. Questions are not, in my experience, one upon a time, I went on an interview one time, those are stories, those are dramas. But if you've got a question, I'd love to hear it. Fair? You all friends yet? Okay. That's what we're going to cover tonight, that you have in your handout. Thank you to Joe Savino, for the handouts. I called him last minute, he put them all together, he even stapled them. Is he all right? Thank you, Joe. Doesn't have to be combative. A lot of employers decide it should be combative. For some such reason, some early training, a throwback from the 60s or 50s or whenever, okay? It needn't be that way. I suggest we do a different approach. That's the objective, to identify their needs, okay, and bring them together. If we do that, it's a good hire. It's a good move on the candidate. It's a good selection. That's what the goal is. Anybody know Liz Ryan? Everybody on LinkedIn? Okay. She does a lot of posting. She's a recruiter, okay? She's way beyond where I've gone, okay? She's a prolific writer. But here's a quote from her. See yourself as more than a resume, more than a bundle of skills and competencies. The truth is that skills dogma fed to us in the past 20 years is nonsense. No one cares about your skills. Now, you don't have to believe that. Choose to, you don't have to. There are people who don't believe in gravity. So believing in something, okay, believing it to be true or not, doesn't change the reality. She goes on to say, hiring managers care about whatever problem they've got that's annoying and expensive enough to justify spending precious salary dollars to fix it. That's why they're screening you. Should they make this investment in you, or you, or you? That's what it's about. And I think you can help them. Now again, that sounds awfully one-sided and pretty, I'm an old guy, I forget things, so if there's a pause here, just know that the wheels are turning a little bit slower. Okay? But some people find that offensive, okay? But in reality, businesses are in business to make money. Because if they're not making money, they can't pay your salary, they can't pay your benefits, and so on and so forth. So it's green profit. Here's something for you. 3% can get hired on credentials. You all know Larry the cable guy? If he had the right credentials, now forget the image, but if he mailed a resume with the right credentials, he could get hired without an interview. 3% can really get hired based on credentials alone. The rest of us have to go through an interview process. Most qualified don't get hired or promoted. Presentation, personality, and chemistry. That's the reality, folks. That's the reality. I've placed more unqualified people than you can imagine. Really. No, let's understand. I do not encourage nor will I support anybody who lies, fudges, or stretches the imagination. But how you package it, how you present it, how you begin to get in touch with where they are and what they need, that's magical. Okay? And we'll cover some more of this stuff in a bit. If the average job is 18 months, folks, you better get used to this process. 18 months. Now that doesn't mean you have to leave the company, but sometimes you have a panel interview, okay, for an internal position. These things do happen, and they're good things, okay? Get used to it. Get used to presenting your background. Get used to finding out where their pain is. I've got a good friend of mine in the same business, and he taught me, all jobs are temporary. All jobs are temporary. Just accept the reality of it. Okay, I know people who are in their 50s, okay, looking for that one magical job so they can ride out to their 65. Odds of it happening are very, very slim. So let's get into it. Who wants what? As a candidate, those seem to be some things that you're looking for, right? What else could we add to that? You understand we don't move forward until somebody comes up with at least one more idea.
Learning.
Learning, I like that.
Training.
Training, okay. Anything else?
Fun.
Sorry?
Fun.
Fun, okay, yeah. Years ago that was unheard of, but today, yes, we can have fun and enjoy it.
Networking.
Networking. Beautiful. Good. Okay. What's the employer he wants? Can you accommodate them? I've looked at the room now 3 or 4 times around. There's nobody here that's incompetent. There's no one here that doesn't have the basic skills. So the question is, will you accommodate them? On either side. If you're performing performance reviews, okay, what do they want? What does the employee want? What's going to make them happier, more productive? Yes, you as the manager, you want certain skills, you want certain attitudes, you want certain things, and you're entitled to that. What are you going to give back? What are you going to give them to keep them happy? This one's good. The risks. As a candidate, you got a lot at risk. Your future, your reputation, finances, other options. There's a lot of risk you're taking by accepting this one position. Anything else you can put up there? No? Jim?
Yeah, if it's an internal job, you're locked in for a year and something else might come
Okay.
along. That's the opportunity you might miss.
You're limiting options within the company. Good. Anything else?
Your personal time, depending on the commute.
Mm-hmm. Personal time.
The unknown.
The unknown.
You know what your job is like now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What you know versus what you don't know.
Mm-hmm. That's always scary.
Not working with you for a year, Gary?
You got a pen, I'll write that one down.
Joe and I go back, way back. Okay. 4 times? Okay. It's been fun. Profitable too.
And the other risk is that it might not work.
Exactly. Okay.
You might find yourself, I mean, I've had this happen to me, 6 months into a job.
Mm-hmm.
I sent my, I mean, this is the days when you had people actually typing your resume. I called a woman to type my resume, and I said to her, I gotta meet you, I got a new resume for you to do. She said to me, is that all you do is look for a job? What she didn't understand was, I made a mistake.
Exactly. It happens.
Get out of there.
Yeah, it happens.
Gary, today, the decision of the hiring manager no longer exists.
Mm-hmm.
If Jerry called me and he interviewed me and he said, "Oh, that's the guy I want,
Mm-hmm.
it's my responsibility, and I'll deal with it," no more. It's a collaborative effort. If I have one of the other partners decide I don't care for Joe, Jerry's out. That's the way it works.
Again, different companies, okay? The larger the company gets, the more that is apt to be the standard. On the other hand, there are exceptions. So yes, that's a real thing, and be aware of it, okay? So the internal politics is not going to change, okay? And then someday you'll be in the chair, and you'll be deciding the politics, and that's not going to change either. So it comes with the territory. What are the risks on the employer side, though? The cost of hiring? The cost of hiring, that's the ad, posting the ad, paying whomever, LinkedIn or whatever it is. And the cost of doing the interviewing, flying in, missed candidates. What else is the company risking?
Go back to what you said before, people are changing jobs, that they're
Mm-hmm.
changing their short time. I mean, today's hirees, I mean, it used to be 5 and out. I don't even think people make it that long.
A lot of them don't. A lot of them don't. The younger people right now that I work with, they're very comfortable, 2 years.
Right.
And if you're not challenging me, and I'm bored, pick up the 401k, it's still there, the 401k, and move on. And Jerry can attest to this, in my generation, you work for the same company for 40 years. When I saw a candidate who had less than 15 years with the present firm, I was concerned. If it was less than 5 years, they were a job hopper, I wouldn't even talk to them. Today, when I see a candidate 10 years with one company, whoa. Whoa, 15 or 20 years? No part of it. Okay. And there's a definite reason for it, because they have one environment. I don't care how many jobs, how many different bosses, how many different products, they have one environment. That's the way they think. They're locked into it. It's unfortunate, but that does happen. Is it 100% accurate? No. As a generalization, it works and saves me a lot of headaches. Okay. So this is how the things have changed. Okay. The skill sets, your job, your role is to keep yourself marketable. How marketable will you be when you leave? Especially unexpectedly. Okay. So that's your responsibility. But let's look at this further. $130,000 to hire somebody at the $80,000 bracket. That's a pretty big investment. And you know what that doesn't include? My fee. So you add another, okay, 25% of that is what? Another $20,000 on top?
Plus the bottle of wine, right?
Plus a bottle of wine. Yeah. Okay.
Without a cork.
So my point is, this is a big risk for the employer. Okay. Besides the hiring manager's reputation, hire the wrong person, doesn't work out. Oh my gosh. So, one of the big things that we run across is job descriptions. This is on the employer side. So when you're screening candidates, okay, it's a wish list. Everybody and their brother and sister have an idea of what they want. So this job description becomes this thing here. Okay, and of course it's a wish list. You're never going to find it, but of course, as long as you have this wish list and no candidate surfaces that meets all of this criteria, you don't have to make a decision. Because Lord knows if you make the wrong decision, you're out, especially if you're fairly new at the firm. Lord knows you don't want to make a decision unless it's perfect. It's called CYA. This is human nature, nothing wrong with it. Okay. That creates more problems, more challenges than you can imagine. Okay, I read another, anybody know Lou Adler? He's also on LinkedIn a lot. Okay, he's a prolific writer, mostly in job searches on helping candidates market themselves. He's written a lot of books. Go to the library or or Google him. Lou Adler, and the other one was, what's her name?
Liz Ryan.
Liz Ryan. Okay, look both of them. If you're on the market, go read their texts, read their books. So I decided that you have must-haves, helpful, and the person. Now, each of you are going to have your own different criteria when you're screening candidates. And as the positions change from a heavy analytic to somebody a little bit more involved or supportive of the sales role, this is going to change. But the must-haves. They must have some relevant experience, unless we're looking for a trainee, some specific education. You want some communication skills. They've got to accept responsibilities. These are pretty broad. Okay. Helpful, though. Okay, products. And here's where when I'm working with a client company, I try and get them to look. They're in the cosmetic business. That's great. So I've got somebody from the consumer electronics industry. Well, that's different. Well, of course it's different. But if you think of somebody who makes a consumer electronics components such as the PNY, thing, little gadgets. Okay, there's packaging, there's sourcing. Everything is similar. Working with the big box stores. Okay, working with different markets, different seasons. Okay, different marketplaces altogether. But they are similar. What I ask that you do as a hiring person, look at the background, understand the industry, do some research on the industry. But you want some products, you want some accomplishments that they can quantify. One of the things I find a lot of candidates will talk about their accomplishments. If you don't quantify it, they don't count. It's nothing more than a responsibility. You supervised a warehouse of 400,000 square feet because there's a number they think they've quantified. That's your job. That's why they hired you. Person, I think that's where it all comes down to. And they have core values. And we'll talk about how to get into that. Their presence. When they come in and you're sitting with them, what kind of presence? How do you feel about it? Passion. Passion. Tom and I were talking about that earlier. He just landed a new position. Congratulations, Tom. One of the things that he found is to exude passion. If you're passionate about something, they're going to listen. They're going to be a lot more in tune with you. Leadership, enthusiasm, integrity. We don't see that word very often. What are some of the other things we're looking for? What would you add to that list?
Team worker,
Team worker, good.
reliability,
Reliability. Shows up when they should, most days.
APICS.
I'm sorry?
APICS.
APICS, okay. Continuing education. Continuing education. Look for an achiever. Look for the pattern of successes. You get the right candidate with the right attitude, okay, and the general knowledge, the general ability. They've taught chimpanzees how to operate a space capsule. Now that goes back 30 years. They can teach you any position as long as you're willing to learn, and they are a reasonable trainer. Jim?
Also, I'd like to see personal growth in especially an experienced position.
Sure.
You don't want them like stuck in jobs.
Okay, but that brings up another point. Stuck in a job. In another presentation, I talk about the difference between a job and a career. Do you want a job or do you want a career? Nothing wrong with having a job, especially in today's world. And I'm a sexist, and I'll admit it. I'm not politically correct either. But for years, women, they came out of college or school, they went and started a career. They got married, they had babies, decided they wanted to be at home with their babies. And then when they came back to the job market, they didn't want a career yet. They still had the obligations at home. And they were looking for nothing more than a job. Go in at 9, come out at 5, and take care of their wife. Nothing wrong with that. And I've watched men do that as well, because of other interests. Okay? One of the things you want to decide is, do you want a job or do you want a career? And you can change it anytime you want. You have that freedom. Take advantage of it. Let's talk about resumes briefly. Most people write resumes with their eyes glued to the rearview mirror. Okay, imagine when you leave here, you get in your car, your rearview mirror is 4 feet wide, it's 2 feet high. How the heck are you going to drive? All you can see is your past. That's all you see. That's how most people write resumes. That's how we were taught a long time ago. It's not wrong. It's not very effective either. 1 to 4% response rate. Now, I'm not a math guy, but that tells me I've got to send out 25 resumes minimum to get 1 interview. That's if the odds are on my side. 100 if the odds are against me. You wouldn't play those odds in Vegas. Generic resumes are worthless. Here's one. 80% of your background, your experience, your knowledge, your expertise, 80% of what you think you bring to the table is of no interest to any one hiring individual. And it changes with every individual. Everybody wants a little bit different from your background. You run that interview yesterday? Okay. There was finance, sales, marketing, HR. Everybody wants something different. As they should. 20% of your background is interesting to any individual. 20%, 15 to 20%. You all know the term build to customer spec? Here's another number. 70 to 80% figure out that they can do the job. So if the company gets 100 resumes, 70 can do it. If they get 1,000 resumes, think of the numbers. They can actually do the job. Some need more training. Some are going to be overqualified, but they can do the job. But only 6 to 8 are going to be interviewed. Hitting the target is a miss. If you don't hit the bullseye, it's a miss. What is the objective of a resume?
Get in the door.
Get an interview. That's all you want. You don't want it to convince them you're the one to be hired, that you walk on water, that you know everything under the sun. All you want to do is say, this is the ticket into the arena. That's all you want. Everyone has an opinion. You talk to 10 people, you'll have 17 different opinions. Okay? I like mine, of course, okay? But other people have other opinions. The way I teach a candidate, and this is really abbreviated, if you want more on it, you can call me anytime, okay? The first thing you do is you take the job posting, print it. You can try and do this on the screen or on your iPhone, it's not going to work. Print it, and highlight every word that's important. When you look at a job description, generally, 50 minimum to 80% of the words in that job description means something to the person who wrote it. Highlight every word that was important, only the word. Don't highlight whole sentences or bullets, just an individual word. View their webpage. Find, especially with a large company, 20 other postings they've had in the last year. Regardless of the position you're applying for. Look, see, they ran a posting for a chemist, for a sales administrator, for a traffic person, for a clerk. They don't have clerk typists anymore. My age is showing. For an R&D person, supply chain manager, whatever it is. Look at all the different disciplines. Learn their dialect. Every company has their own dialect. Okay, here at BASF, we speak BASF East. Over at Bear, we speak Bear East. At Novartis, you used to speak Novartis East. Everybody has their own language, their dialect. Learn theirs. Do they deal in SKUs or SKUs? Do they have a bill of material A BOM, or do they call it a bomb? Learn their terminology. When you start using their verbiage, their language, you're one of them. There's automatically a connection. Okay? Now, there's nothing wrong with this. What's really happening, instead of being stuck in the rearview mirror or looking in the mirror and reflecting yourself, you're beginning to focus on the objective. You're beginning to identify who they really are and what they really want. Isn't this interesting? Why don't we give them what they want, as opposed to everything we have in our background? Oh, shoot. Oh, okay. So you're going to find another 25 additional buzzwords specific to their industry, their firm, using the highlighted words plus the additional 25 words. You craft a chronological resume. This is simple. You can only use the words that were highlighted, 25 additional buzzwords. That's it. That's your bill of material. That's your raw material. That's all you have to build with. Guess what? A one-page resume is very, very easy to do. But on this one-page resume, the bulk of it should be 80 to 90%. Going to be right on target. You think you'll get their attention? And don't you dare lie or fudge. But if you know the word, whether you use it or not, you all know SAP? They're here, people who've never used SAP. You know it, you have a relationship with it. So although you've never worked with SAP, you can simply say, similar to SAP, or you can use the term ERP, system. They might assume it's SAP. If you get stuck on finding your linkage to these words, you call me, I'll send you out, no charge. I'll send you out a list of linking verbs. And maybe you didn't create the S&OP process, you participated in it, or didn't you contribute something to it? Or don't you take guidance from the S&OP process? If you know a word, you have a relationship. Accomplishments and bullets must include a dollar amount and or a percentage. On one page if you do it effectively. You get stuck on it. Again, I used to charge a bottle of wine to help somebody. I changed the rules. I'd get more wine that I didn't want to drink. My wife wouldn't even cook with it. So we changed the rules about 1.5 years ago. If I spend time with you and you find it helpful, you will write a check payable to the Wounded Warriors Project. But you send it to me so I know you did it. And I will put it in an envelope with other checks, send it to Wounded Warriors. It's your check. You get the tax deduction. I get nothing. But something inside says that nothing is for nothing. So you write the check for any amount you want. I've got little checks. I got a $3,000 check one time. Just so that's up to you. For the employer. Hey, how are you? Good to see you. There's an open chair right there. We waited for you.
Appreciate it.
That's my friend. Hi, say hello to him.
All right, guys. Sorry to interrupt. Never had such a nice one.
See that? Okay, for the employer. First thing, while that candidate's sitting out in the lobby, look at the posting. That's what they're applying for. So if you've changed the position or your mind is somewhere else, get in touch with the position that they're sitting out there for. Interview 5 candidates if you can. You want to do it in a 1 to 2 week period. If you can do it in 1 week, it's advantageous to you. The process will get easier the shorter you keep that plan. Follow a predetermined format. Know what you want to cover. However, don't get stuck on it. You have an outline of what you want to cover. But you've got to be flexible enough. They're a human being. They're not an a machine. They're not robots yet. If you have a group of people, whether it's a panel or individual one-on-one interviews, make sure there's a little bit of overlap so that they can cover similar things but not the entire thing. Simple process. Review their LinkedIn page, their Facebook, or whatever else. Google them. You want to find out about somebody that you won't find on LinkedIn and Facebook? Google them. Or the other one is Zaba Search. You can find out some fascinating things. But come up with a question or two based on their Facebook and LinkedIn page. A specific question. Very, very important. Interesting things you're going to find out. They're going to open up into a depth that you didn't anticipate and that they didn't anticipate. Know their prior industries. Okay, you'll find linkage there that you didn't know existed. Very, very helpful. You can quiz them. Now you begin to understand their background, and if they shift and start speaking their company dialect, They stop speaking your company dialect, you know they're zoned in on themselves, they're not looking forward. That's key here. Are they looking forward, or are they looking backward? If all I can talk about are all my accomplishments, and I did this and I did that, is that really the person you want on the team? Think about it.